The Audible with Mike Pendleton is live now.
And welcome in. It is another edition of The Audible with me, Mike Pendleton. On today, August 27th, it is a Thursday. We are getting the start of FCS college football today. Can you feel it? Can you smell it? We absolutely love FCS. All right, let me relax. This is an NFL show. We are going to have a great time today. You see the topics right there, right next to me on the screen. We are not going to waste any time. I want to discuss the big time contract extension in Seattle for the Seahawks. That is all pro defensive tackle Leonard Williams. He gets a 3-year, $90 million contract extension to stay in Seattle. And the reason I wanted to start the show with this is because this shows what happens for Super Bowl championship teams. This shows what happens for teams that do very well at the NFL top level, right? You're going to have roster turnover each and every single year. You lose Kenneth Walker, you lose Kobe Bryant, Boyamaf, all the guys that Seattle lost, they also kept some of them. Identify your core, and more importantly than your core, your best talent, identify your locker room and team leaders. When I look at the Seattle Seahawks, like this is a team I'm gravitating towards this year, not because they're the defending champs, but because they are the featured team of my favorite show. I don't like Survivor or Big Brother or any of those shows. I'm Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks 24/7. So I may only be a Bears fan. But when it comes to Hard Knocks, whatever team they feature, a team I am going to follow. And Leonard Williams is a guy who he's in the veteran team meetings, in the locker room leader meetings. When Mike McDonald, the head coach, is meeting with the vets, he's meeting with Leonard Williams, Sam Darnold, the guys who are the faces of your franchise. And while there's conversation about, who might be more important and how big of a loss is it going to be to have Kenneth Walker depart in free agency, we don't know that yet. But what we do know is sometimes you cannot put an actual value on extreme talent, but more importantly, locker room leaders. So I love, and how about this? Leonard Williams, thinking about all that he's done everywhere he's gone. He's got 3 big contract extensions. He's played on the franchise tag twice in his career, played for the Giants, played for the Jets. Now in Seattle, he's a Super Bowl champion. This man will have made $250 million if he plays out his contract. Let that sink in. We're always talking about player values and contracts. 250 for a defensive tackle, a man in the middle. I love that for Leonard Williams. And when you think about the career that he's traveled, it's a very much deserved contract. But Seattle's going to be interesting. They have had a few injuries to their receiving core. I think a lot of people want to see what happens with the Seattle Seahawks because of players like Cooper Kupp. We all know how good Jackson Smith-Njigba is. We know how well Sam Darnold played. We know how good of a coach Mike McDonald is, especially on defense. But there are question marks. Is Cooper Kupp the wide receiver 2 in Seattle? Is it Rashid Shaheed? Or is there a TBD that will pop up during the 2026 season? Zach Charbonnet, the running back, coming off a torn ACL. Now they're putting the pressure on a rookie and Jadarian Price to carry the load. No pun intended. He's going to be their workhorse early in the season because of the injury to Zach Charbonnet. So how is defending champions, when they open the season on Wednesday against the Patriots, how do they feel about having Jadarian Price in the backfield? Like, we're going to find out about the Seattle Seahawks very, very quickly. This isn't going to be a Super Bowl hangover type of conversation. We are going to find out very, very quickly what the Seattle Seahawks are made of. And I think it's a great way to open up the season because I think a lot of people probably said the Super Bowl was boring. And to be fair, you would have plenty of room to stand on and plenty of leg to stand on with that conversation. However, what is the difference coming into 2026? That's what we're going to want to see on both sides. If you're a fan of one or the other, you're obviously going to ride with that team. But when I look at it as neither a fan of the Patriots or Seahawks, I'm looking, how does A.J. Brown now affect that Seattle secondary? How does Jadarian Price in the backfield affect that Seattle offense? There's a lot of questions that we're going to get all the answers to very quickly when the regular season begins, and I'm here for it. But first and foremost, sometimes there are guys who just get paid the amount that they deserve and they have earned. Leonard Williams, you are that guy. Seattle locks up a locker room leader right before the regular season. All right. As he's getting paid, others are getting healthy. And that's where we move on in here. And here there's the Audible. If I can get my words out correctly. This is the Audible. I am Mike Pendleton. And as we approach week 3 of the preseason, the final week of the preseason, we have players getting what is most important. It's not getting paid, it's getting healthy. 2 names come across to me, actually 3, and that is tight end Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers, tight end George Kittle, the San Francisco 49ers, and one that may be even more important to his team, wide receiver Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Tucker Kraft, this is a guy who is enjoying a breakout season, has really established himself as one of the premier tight ends in the National Football League, and what he's going to be able to do in Green Bay. A lot of people are expecting that Matthew Golden breakout. When you look at the weapons that Jordan Love has in Green Bay, it's hard to argue that he doesn't have enough. Like Josh Jacobs at running back. We'll see what happens with his legal situation and if the NFL hands down any suspension. But Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Matthew Golden. Jordan Love has plenty of options and playmakers at the skill positions in his offense. But it's going to be very interesting to see how they use Tucker Kraft coming off a torn ACL. I'm actually very excited to see if he can continue his rise because, we have Kyle Pitts, Colston Loveland, Sam Laporta was there, but on the other end, you've got George Kittle, you've got Travis Kelce. The game is losing some of their premier tight ends. Where are the next ones coming from? Maybe Green Bay has one of the next best young tight ends in the league. And one of the men who has really established himself for years as a dominant tight end, that is George Kittle. What is he going to be like coming off a torn Achilles for the San Francisco 49ers? Ian Rappaport of NFL and ESPN Media has said that he is on track. It is trending that he can return in week 1. What does that look like for the 49ers, who, just to be very clear, I'm going to take a second on the 49ers here. You guys can go read about Jed York. I'm not touching that. I can't even make jokes. It's embarrassing. It is not something that, for as many on-field issues as the 49ers are having. If you go back to last year with Brandon Ayuk and now this year with Jed York, the 49ers can't get out of their own way. And this is a team that we always expect to put into the NFC playoff picture. And right now, you don't know who's going to be on the field and you don't know who's going to be in trouble. So I'm really, if we're just talking football, I'm really interested to see how the 49ers will adjust to the craziness that they have endured this offseason. Brandon Ayuk still on the roster. I don't think any of us expected that on August 27th. He is still a part of the roster. I do not expect him to step on the field. Deebo Samuel is back, and it would only make sense if we had a crazy turn of events and Brandon Ayuk played for the 49ers this year. But Mike Evans is banged up. We'll see what Deebo Samuel has. We're still awaiting George Kittle to get that official clearance. You're going to need that. You're going all the way down to Melbourne, Australia, week 1 to take on the Los Angeles Rams on Netflix. I think this George Kittle news is very, very serious for the Niners because if it's up to Christian McCaffrey and Devon Stribling, the rookie wide receiver, I don't know that Brock Purdy is going to feel very comfortable. They have Trent Williams, like they were able to bring him back, and that's a core piece to what they do. But also Kyle Shanahan. and his car accident in the offseason and how that all played out, like the 49ers have an identity crisis right now. And the only way to get out of your own way is to win football games. I don't believe they can do that with the lineup that they currently have and the injuries that they are battling. Now, I mentioned the one that I felt was most important to his team. I do not think Alec Pierce is more important than Tucker Kraft or George Kittle. However, after the Colts traded away Michael Pittman, yes, they signed Keenan Allen to a one-year deal, a very crafty veteran who spent some time in Chicago, but mainly with the San Diego and Los Angeles Chargers throughout his career. The Colts need Alec Pierce. Daniel Jones needs Alex Pierce. Tyler Warren needs Alec Pierce. And so does Jonathan Taylor. I think this, and this is a guy they signed to a big extension this offseason. He is your new number one. I don't know how comfortable I would feel in Indianapolis if my number one guy is just getting healthy. Just now. Just now. Week 3 of the preseason. And he had off-season ankle surgery. He will be ready, at least activated off the PUP list, so he is trending in that direction. It is one of those things. You have Daniel Jones coming off an Achilles injury. You have Alec Pierce coming off. Two of your top weapons are coming off serious injuries. And in the AFC South, which I believe is wide open, you have an opportunity to get off to another hot start. You remember last season, all we kept saying is the Colts? No. No, hey, listen, my guy. They'll fall on their face. And you said it again and again and again. And they weren't going away. And then Daniel Jones gets hurt. We're going to talk more on the Colts in a moment because I think there is a guy that I'm watching this weekend. And I'm going to tell you about several names. I think very interesting enough. This weekend, the final weekend of the preseason, obviously you're going to have the games. Then you're going to have roster cut downs. I think this weekend sets up to be quite surprising. A couple maybe predictions, little hot takes that we have to get to when we look at players that I am watching this weekend. We'll talk about the Colts more on that note. But I've got to go to the Dirty 30. I've got to go to Atlanta. And I've got to talk about the situation at quarterback. You have Tua Tagovailoa, and then you have Michael Penix Jr. coming off of another torn ACL he suffered in his football career. He is getting back to practice now. He will not play in the preseason finale. Here's my concern for the Atlanta Falcons. Ian Rappaport has come out and said Tua's play has left the door open for Michael Penix to take the starting job. Think about that for one moment if you're a football fan. And if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, this is a safe space. You could drop your thoughts in the comments below. How you can go and invest money into it. It's not a lot, but maybe it's security concern behind Michael Penix because of his ACL injury. There is no world, very similar to how I feel about Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. There is no world in which I believe Tua should be QB1 for the Atlanta Falcons. I understand Michael Penix is coming off of a torn ACL, but why did you hire Kevin Stefanski? To get the most out of your quarterback position. And if Michael Penix is only getting healthy and Tua can't keep the starting job, what does that say to you about Tua's place in his career, the trajectory, it's downward in his career, and all Michael Penix has to do is show up to class. Show up to class, have perfect attendance, and just be there when the teacher calls your name. And guess what? Michael Penix is QB1 for the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're better with Penix at quarterback, so long as he can stay healthy. I think Kevin Stefanski is the right guy for Michael Penix. And then you extended Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. You extend your playmakers as they did, have the right guy to get them the football. I'm not saying Michael Penix is the guy for the longevity of the Atlanta Falcons. In 2026, there is no doubt about it. Michael Penix, QB1 in the dirty. Now, every week, you guys are going to get a rant from me. Every single week. It's just, that's how this show will go. And thank you to the Atlanta Falcons, who Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. I'll let you all figure that one out. When you look at moves that have needed to be made. And I'm trying to not fall back into the conversation about college athletes. I think the one thing I will say before we get to the accountability the NFL takes, when something is embarrassing to the NFL, they attack it. If it's a player, a team, an organization, an owner, like they'll address it. And they don't wait around. And now for years, we've been calling for the elimination of the Pro Bowl, quite simply because players didn't care. Being a Pro Bowler didn't matter. It was almost like, well, Cousin Jenny invite us over for the barbecue again. Do we really have to go? You know how I feel about your in-laws. That's what the Pro Bowl felt like for at least the last 3 to 5 years. I don't even care about the flag part of the Pro Bowl. I have 2 core memories of the Pro Bowl in my lifetime. The iconic Peyton Manning, we're talking about a kicker interview, and Sean Taylor just lighting up a punter. Hey, Sean, what a great career you had. We were supposed to play this Pro Bowl for fun. Sean Taylor didn't believe in fun. Sean Taylor believed in football. And I think that's what we're getting back to. So I'm going to applaud the NFL for saying we're getting embarrassed on social media, in the ratings, the level of interest from the fans and the players. Now, I like that they will still name players to the Pro Bowl. That's still an accolade. That's still an achievement. That's still something a player can get in his contract incentive. But that's the other side of it, the incentive side. What is the incentive now? Now it's up to NFL GMs and front offices to come up with the incentive of wanting to be named to the Pro Bowl. You got rid of the game. Let's not get rid of the full value. I want players, because it was Pro Bowl and then All Pro. And to be an All Pro, you had to be the 1% of the 1% in the NFL. And it should remain that way. We don't have to have the game for the players to still care about what the Pro Bowl is and what the Pro Bowl means. And I think this is huge. And I think as much as in 2026, we often want to criticize and critique every professional athlete, every professional sports league, like we know everything as fans. Quite frankly, we don't know anything inside those walls of the leagues that we are watching. It is easy to criticize. It is better to applaud when the right decisions are made. And I believe that this is the best decision for the NFL. And there's more to this, right? Before I get into my players to watch this weekend, I want to read a statement from the NFL and the NFLPA. It's a joint statement in which they discuss emphasis. Beginning this season, we will place greater emphasis on 5 player health and safety rules violations: hip drop tackle, horse collar tackle, launching, hit on a defensive player, and blindside block. Players who commit 3 offenses in any of these categories during a season will be suspended for 1 game. Players who commit only 1 violation will receive 50% of their fine back at the end of the season. That's important. We need to address these fouls. I'd make the conversation, or the argument rather, that there was a hip drop tackle on Bears tight end Colston Loveland in Cincinnati last weekend. Wasn't called. Unify across the league the emphasis, however. That's the most important part here. It cannot be emphasized for one team and not the other. It cannot be emphasized by one officiating crew and not the other. That's the next stage in the NFL's accountability program that I just made for them, is getting all of your officiating crews up to speed on everything and have every crew on the same playing field. You know how many times as a football fan you go, And I'm not going to oust any referees. But as an NFL fan, on Sundays or Thursdays or Mondays, you should wake up and go, are my fantasy lineups in? Are my parlays set? What time is kickoff? Let's have a day. And you know how many times people are going, that's my referee assignment? I don't know. I guess I'm going to take the under. We're going to be here for an extra 30 minutes. You have to take all of the unwanted circumstances and leave them on the sidelines. For anyone who can affect the game that are not the 11 players on offense or the 11 players on defense or special teams, get that out of the way. So I love these. All of these points of emphasis could lead to long-term injuries, devastating seasons for certain franchises, hip drop tackle, horse collar tackle, launching, hit on a defensive player, and blindside block. Now, what I do not want, and I think we can all agree, because we have seen in today's NFL when there's a big pass play and there's some tangling up, every receiver and every fan wants a flag. Not every play has to be overly legalized, right? Enforced, however you want to explain it. There cannot be flags on every other play. As simple as this: hip drop, you're out. Hip drop, you're fined. Hip drop, launching, you're gone. Just set the precedent right away. But that's why it is so crucial. It is so important. I cannot emphasize this enough, that all the referees get in unison. Because when you're going to focus on points of emphasis, as the league has said it is going to, you want your players to be aware of it. Now your officials need to be aware of it. There should be no questionable calls. These five points of emphasis, I'll say them one more time: hip drop tackle, horse collar tackle, launching, hit on a defenseless player, and a blindside block. We all know what those are. So should your referees. If the referees are on board, I think we've got something here. And I think a lot of teams and fan bases won't have to clutch and cringe every time a play is made. These rules are very, very blunt, straightforward. So let's make sure they're emphasized correctly, not just by teams, but by referees, and then also, obviously, of course, by the players. Before we get out of here, I want to thank every single one of you. I am Mike Pendleton. You are watching the Audible on the Under the Hood Network with the one and only Jonathan Hood. Make sure to like, subscribe. You can follow me on socials: X at MP2310, Instagram Mike P2310. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, this is the Audible. I can't wait. I can't wait. The final week of the preseason is here. It starts tonight, Thursday, August 27th. I believe the one and only preseason game we have is Steelers and Bills on Thursday. No, we have Steelers, Bills, Patriots, Browns, 49ers, Raiders, and Rams, Chargers. So that's your Thursday slate, your Friday slate. Oh, it's a little packed. You know what? You guys, I'm not going to tell you the games. You guys got your phones. You guys can go check out the schedule. But here's what I am going to tell you. There are a few names I'm watching. There are a few names that I am watching for the final week of the preseason, because the games will be played and then the cuts will be made. All teams will be getting down to 53-man rosters going into next week, coming out of this weekend. And I've got 2 quarterbacks, 1 Chicago Bear, and 1 legendary wide receiver. Let's start there. Odell Beckham. Can he do it? Can he do it? Can OBJ don giant blue in 2026? I don't think like it wouldn't be a travesty if he didn't make the New York Giants. But you look at what this team has done this preseason, Jackson Dart already in the medical tent and all that commotion. I know Cam Scatterboo has been fired up training or practicing with other teams, starting fights. Let's chill out on the fights, guys, by the way. Let's settle it on the football field when it actually matters. I don't understand animosity in preseason and training camp. I don't get it. I understand everyone's hungry and ready to hit, but hit in September when you get paid to do so. You also get paid to play in the preseason, but you get my point. Let's do it when it's significant. Let's do it when it really matters. But looking at Odell Beckham, Malik Neighbors coming off a knee injury. The Giants drafted Malachi Fields. They have Darnell Mooney there. Darius Slayton is there. Coach John Harbaugh is there running the show. I just think sometimes it's okay to let a legend go out on his own terms. And we saw what Odell Beckham did in Cleveland and Los Angeles, and it just doesn't feel right. And for today's NFL culture, where it's always about that bottom line, that top dollar, let's let the man who really captured all of us with that one-handed snag against the Dallas Cowboys all those years ago, let's let him go out on his terms. I'd actually be very, very excited and happy to see Odell Beckham make the final 53. I don't know that it's that big of a question, but I think too often in the NFL, we have players who don't get to go out on their own terms, who don't get to go back to their original teams. And furthermore, we don't have a lot of players like Odell Beckham who go back to their original team, and they're needed. I think Odell Beckham's needed. Even if Malik Neighbors is healthy, even if Darius Slayton or Malachi Fields are your top two wide receivers after Neighbors, I still think Odell Beckham is needed. Going to play in New York or East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the Giants and Jets play, that's a big culture change for anybody. And for Malik Neighbors, especially coming off a torn ACL, having Odell Beckham in that locker room is key. You look at what the Giants have, their nucleus, their core, Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, and now Odell Beckham, Malik Neighbors. You need to have an Odell Beckham in there. Say what you want about Odell when he was young, emphasis on young. He could be a locker room leader to help establish the culture with the new head coach in John Harbaugh. So I'm very interested to see what Odell Beckham does. Now, I mentioned a Chicago Bear. Jordan Schultz, highly respected NFL insider, has said that Gervon Dexter has been getting trade calls. The Bears are taking calls on Gervon Dexter. I think, and I know he's out with a hamstring injury, I believe, this weekend. We'll see. He's a guy that, to me, if you can move, final year of his rookie contract, if you can move Gervon Dexter for another pass rusher, you can never have too many pass rushers. The easy conversation that people keep saying is Gervon Dexter for Josh Sweat. You're probably including draft picks for that trade to happen. But if we're playing fantasy land, sure, sign me up. I trust Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, and Dennis Allen right now. I do. Now, say what you want about the lack of availability by players because of injuries. That's not Dennis Allen's fault. I think it's quite alarming. I think the Bears have a lot to figure out very quickly. But if you're going to trade Gervon Dexter, don't let it be a preseason week 3 trade where it's just Gervon for a 7th round pick. Now, there's a 6th round pick who might benefit from that. And that is Jordan Vandenberg, a guy who the Bears were praised as a team in the 6th round more than some teams get praised in the 2nd and 3rd round for their selection of Jordan Vandenberg. This dude's diving Superman style to try to make a tackle against the Cincinnati Bengals. You may not know the name, and he had a late ascension to pro football, but man, Jordan Vandenberg is a guy in Chicago, It's not going to take long for the fans to fall in love with him. And it's clearly not going to take long for the coaches to identify him as an impact player. So before you criticize Gervon Dexter, maybe look at Jordan Vandenberg and tip of the cap to the young man who made life quite difficult for Gervon Dexter to keep his roster spot. So I'm very intrigued what the Bears may do. I think you have to go with an opportunity to add a pass rusher if one presents itself. All right. This weekend, the final week of the preseason, is going to be the absolute last opportunity for these next two guys. Both former first-round picks. Both, I think, on the fringe of making a roster, and that is Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson and Minnesota Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Now, I know it's easy to buy into the hype and, the fire of those two guys may get cut. Those two guys may not even make their team. And I think it's a little more explosive around J.J. McCarthy because they brought in Kyler Murray. They let Sam Darnold walk. When you follow the Minnesota Vikings, trail recently, draft J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold departs. It is McCarthy's team. Then he gets hurt. Then he's unproductive. So now they bring in Kyler Murray. You wonder, has J.J. McCarthy been given enough time? There is no time like the present in the NFL. You would look at both J.J. McCarthy and Anthony Richardson as examples of the NFL's quarterback development problem. I would argue that's the problem with the NFL's reaching problem in the draft. Both Anthony Richardson and J.J. McCarthy were considered reaches. This isn't league-shaking news if they don't make the team. But if you're J.J. McCarthy and if you're Anthony Richardson, you have one opportunity, one final weekend to make an impression. And I don't know what reps they're going to play. But if you want to be on a team and you have an opportunity, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Right now, neither of these former first-round picks can cut it. But if you're not good enough, Anthony Richardson, for the Indianapolis Colts, be better for someone else. Same message to J.J. McCarthy. If Carson Wentz takes the QB2 job in Minnesota, then campaign and audition yourself to the rest of the league. I am so sick of the lazy narrative that the NFL has a development problem. See Baker Mayfield. I'll wait. Just because players can get cut or moved on from quickly, it's not always reflective of the league as a whole. But those are Gervon Dexter, Odell Beckham, Anthony Richardson, J.J. McCarthy. 4 players I'm watching week 3 of the NFL preseason. And that is the last time here on the Audible in which you will get NFL preseason conversation because, it's over. Not the show. Show's not going anywhere. Right here under the hood with Jonathan Hood. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow every show here at the network. But for now, the Audible, we'll see you next Tuesday. And then it's regular season time. So I look forward, and I want to thank everyone who has reached out for the launch of the new show. All your comments are greatly appreciated. We are less than 2 weeks away. And I cannot wait to break through the 2026 NFL season right here on the Audible with yours truly. I'm Mike Pendleton. We will see you guys next week right here at Under the Hood. Take care.
The Audible with Mike Pendleton.